July 28, video communication to Ujjal Dosanjh. Ujjal, it's been a long time. In regards to the RCMP and their taser use, as I said to Kathy at the Braidwood inquiry, I said, you know, that I'm as probably as confused as you are on this taser issue, because we both have been in the backgrounds of the RCMP for a very long time. In fact, you and I go back from the days of when you were the Attorney General and then the Premier of British Columbia, and the issues raised back then. One of the things that clearly confuses me, and I clearly recall watching, because you know we have been in the background, I clearly recall the TV report on the taser's use and release way back then. And it was on CTV. Actually, CTV probably has a copy of it in their archives, although I doubt that you probably like searching the archives as much as I like searching the Street Kids Project archives, which is not very likely. But you know, that news report said is, you know, that the taser was supposed to be used just prior to the use of gun or use of deadly force. And in that regard, if that would have been kept in force in that regard, the taser is a much more safer option than a gun, by far, no doubt, you know. But that's not what we're seeing now. The Complaints Commission, Commissioner Kennedy, he talks about this taser slip, the taser usage slip, and it's more than a slip. It's a bloody landslide. You know, because now what's going on between the RCMP and civilians is, oh well they're doing God's work and we're just their bitches. You know, if we don't comply, well then we get the cattle prod. Fortunately, that's not what the taser was intended for, and that's their criminal negligence. I actually talked to a local lawyer who he was talking to me about it because he knows of my involvement with the RCMP and the taser issues, and he was telling me up in Terrace he had a case where the guy was in you know, arrest position and everything else, and the RCMP came along and tasered him anyway. Being judge, jury, and executioner, and that's the problem with the use of the taser and its misuse. You know, it's not a compliance tool being used as a compliance tool. It's being used to become judge, jury, and executioner. I'm God and you're my bitch. Unfortunately, the very essence of that issue is a substantial humanitarian crime and little more than a police state existent around that issue. What is also ironic, and one of the things I think we should do, or that needs to be done, is I think there needs to be an independent criminal investigation into former Commissioner Zach Cadelli and his failed command. Because obviously, if that's what the news report said back then and there was a policy set in place, and why wasn't it in place? There's serious substantial issues of criminal negligence there. I think former Commissioner Zach Cadelli has to be held criminally accountable for there to be really any legitimacy in the judicial system, I would have to think. And what we talk about the police's ability to police their own. Well, you know, I hate to tell the members this, but you know what? Commissioners, there was a formal complaint filed with the RCMP Complaints Commission against Commissioner Zach Cadelli, and it's probably dated 2002, of which the Commission took no means and measures to address. If they had, you probably wouldn't have had such a big issue with your pension plan and or the failed command within the RCMP that we're experiencing today. The other thing is, when we talk about the failed command, it's just not something that happened yesterday, a week from yesterday, but actually, if you remember, I raised issue in regards back when you were Premier about abuse dynamics between the Ministry of Children and Families, the RCMP, and the kids put into state care for their protection. And what came out of that was something we now refer to as the cells affair. But if you look at the dynamics of the cells affair, it screams out a failed command, and that's back in 1998. Now, what it is the RCMP, and it's actually the systemic dysfunction with the RCMP. Although they're a civilian police force, they're accountable to no one, and they listen to no one. So subsequently, when the social workers wanted them to go deal with the kids from state care and foster care that were, not getting home on time and stuff, it was, that they were forced to take command from outside of the ranks, and they didn't like that. And rather than engaging in retaliatory abuse attacks on the social workers, which they knew they could never get away with, the abuse dynamics came down on the children in state care, and we had the pounding of children's faces and into the detachment room floor, which I now have in the United Nations, given the RCMP's complete inability to police their own, given their complete insistence on covering up their child crimes atrocities. And the very essence of that issue is a criminal matter. And we have to conclude, really, the RCMP are a little more than engaged in criminal activity. And they can't be of a legitimate command when they're engaged in illegal criminal activity. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And at the end of the day, the government in office, we have to conclude it's of a failed command because the RCMP remain of a failed command. That's the scoop. I hope you enjoy my submission to the Braidwood inquiry. We've taken a lot of time and care to break down what really happened to Mr. Dziekanski medically. And that's the work of our autism team for you. Shortly, sir. Good day.